We do have a quorum present. We appreciate each and every one of you being here this evening and every day. And I'm sure that the light's green, so it means we're ready to go. Jan's going to lead us in the pledge, and Kim will do the mission statement.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
The board mission statement. Tolosa Midway Independent School District educates every student to be a lifelong learner, a person of integrity, and a positive contributor to society.
Thank you, Jan. Thank you, Kim. And our first order is public comment.
No one signed up.
No one has signed up. So at this time, we're going to go into closed session. The board will convene in closed meeting as authorized by Texas Open Meeting Act, Texas Government Code Sections 551071 and 551.074. Discussion regarding proposed termination of a classroom teacher, probationary employee contract. It is 6:01 p.m. on September the 19th, 2022. We're in closed session. It is 6:41 p.m., September the 19th, 2022. We're back in open session. Mr. Van Maten.
Mr. President, members of the board, the administration recommends that the Board of Trustees propose the termination of the probationary contract of Jerry Booth for good cause and authorize me to send notice to Mr. Booth.
Thank you, Mr. Van Maten. We have a motion on administrative records. Jan, John seconds.
All those.
Yeah. Any comments or questions? All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Thank you very much. Okay. We have discussion. Well, let's see. Discussion, action items, report. Bond financing.
Mr. President, members of the board, we have the friend of the district, Mr. Victor Quiroga, that's going to present some new information regarding financing of the bond as we move forward and information to our public. Mr. Quiroga?
Yes, thank you. Present members of the board, Mr. Onishi, thank you for having me here this evening. For the record, my name is Victor Quiroga with Specialized Public Finance, and we wanted to bring you some updated information regarding your bond program in an effort to try to refine the numbers as much as possible and try to mitigate the tax impact to your taxpayers as much as possible. We reran some of the numbers and worked on it to try to get that impact lower. And so we're providing you information here, and I'm sure see if it works. I'm sorry. Yeah. We're ready to turn it on. Okay, great. So before we get into our most recent bond program that's being proposed for the November ballot, we want to just remind everybody, it's been a little while since we did a bond program. That was in 2011, November. We had the last successful bond program here for $36 million. Very similar in what we're attempting to do for this bond program is that if the voters approve the bond program for the projects that you've told them, we're going to phase it in over a 3-year period. Basically, you're asking them for that full amount up front. But after they approve it, and if they approve it, it's up to the board and the district as to how and when you sell those bonds at a later time. So in 2011, we did that because it was a significant amount of bonds that we knew that we were going to spend in 1 year. So, and also we wanted to incrementally increase the tax rate on the taxpayers. We don't want to hit them all at once, which is what happens if you ask for all the bonds and then you take them to the market and then you borrow all that money all at once. You have to set that tax rate increase all at once too. And so here, this was a way to kind of smooth out that tax rate increase. What we told the voters back in 2011 for the $36 million bond program is that over a 3-year period, you can see that in the middle column there, the total tax impact for them was going to be 11.28 cents per $100 valuation. But what had actually happened after we went through the 3 years is that our property values started growing a little higher. The interest rates that we ended up getting on the bonds were a little bit better. And so instead of 11.28 cents, we were able to come in about 5 cents below that. So we ended up actually coming in at 6.28 cents. So we're following the same program for this bond issue as well. So again, things came out a lot better than with the numbers that we proposed. And I apologize, but it seems like the spreadsheet here, the PowerPoint isn't showing up quite right here. There should be numbers behind there, and I don't know if you have a paper.
They should have it.
Okay, great. So I'll just go off of that. I apologize. Sometimes the PowerPoint doesn't transfer well, but anyhow, this is the tax rate history of the district. Basically, this will show the different years. This is going back to 2012. The highest point there in the bar graph was in 2016, tax year 2016 though, so that was 16-17 year where the district's tax rate was $1.41 per $100 valuation. Since that time, the total tax rate has been going down because the state mandated us to compress our maintenance and operation tax rate. So right now, as the budget that you approved last month, the tax rate is $1.16 per $100 valuation, so about 25 cents less than what we were just a few years ago in 2016. So right now our maintenance and operation tax rate is $1.01 per $100 valuation, and then our debt rate that we have to pay off bonds is 15 cents per $100 valuation. So here, the next slide here, this is looking at your property values. So the property values is the largest indicator about how much you could afford as a school district. And since 2012, back then, our property values were about $1.8 billion. As you know, the most recent certified values on your INS side was closer to $3.9 billion just last month. And so if you look at it over the last 10 years, on average, we've been growing about 8% per year. And then in the last 5 years, we've been growing about 4.58% per year. I'm not here to say that in the next 10 years it's going to, more than double again, but this is just an indicator that, as property values go up, your tax rate doesn't have to be as high on your bonds.
And we're currently doing an analysis of 3% growth?
Yes. That's right. So in my models, we're still trying to be conservative. We did work some things differently than when you last saw me in July, and we'll talk about that here in a second. But we are still being conservative. We're still under the average annual growth that you're seeing. We're planning for 3%. However, the last 5 years, we're closer to about 4.5% per year in your property value growth. So the district, as you know, it's composed of a lot of what we call commercial and industrial taxpayers. As I indicated earlier, on your INS side, it's $3.9 billion. The top 10 taxpayers account for 68% of that value. The single-family homes, the people that vote, they account for 11% of your total property value. So about 89% is coming from that commercial, industrial, other segments. So the way to look at this is that the commercial industrial, they're going to be picking up the bulk of the bond payments moving forward if that stays the case like it has been for quite some time. So again, 89% of your property values and bill payments are going to come from industrial and commercial. So this is just a list here of the top 10 taxpayers that we received from the Nueces County Appraisal District for this current year. Of course, Flint Hills is the top taxpayer, $1.3 billion. Corpus Christi Polymers continues to increase as that construction continues for that site. This is another segment where we're assuming that over the next couple of years, hopefully we'll get some more property values out of Corpus Christi Polymers to help pay for the bonds if they're approved by the voters.
I'll just point out that CC Polymers, that number really hasn't changed in like 4 years since they declared bankruptcy. That's the number that's been on the books for the last 4 years. It really hasn't changed any. But if they finally finish construction and start production, that number should go up.
And doesn't Flint Hills contest their tax rate every year?
Yes. They're not paying on that value, but that's what their assessed value is.
But that's not what we're getting.
That's not, we're not.
No,
getting- we're not
but
getting
that's
full-
why we're reflecting a collection rate of 90%.
Correct. With Flint Hills impact, the collection rate the last 3-4 years has been between the 90-91% range. So that's what we're using, and that's what Victor's using in his analysis.
So now moving over to the homeowner exemptions and how that works. So basically, as a homeowner in the state of Texas, everybody in the state, by state law, gets $40,000 off of your appraised value. And that's just state law. So all school district taxpayers throughout the state get that automatic $40,000 off. And that was recently increased last May through an election that the state had to amend that. Before it was $25,000, and they increased it to by another $15,000 to $40,000. So if you take a look at a $200,000 home that's appraised at that value, in that home throughout the state, do we knock off $40,000 off of that value that you have to actually pay taxes on? But Tolosa Midway ISD has what I would call a rare additional local option exemption is what we call it, where 20% of that appraised value, you give an additional homestead exemption to your taxpayers, which is nice, and I wish I had that in San Antonio. But if you look at a $200,000 home here in the district that's appraised at that value, they're going to get the $40,000 from the state mandated exemption, and then you all have the local option of 20%, so they're going to get another $40,000 off of their home value, because that's 20% of $200,000. So the taxable value that they end up paying their taxes on is $120,000 instead of the $200,000 that's appraised. And so we'll talk about the impact here in the next couple of slides. But again, just wanted to point that out. So here for the current bond program that we're proposing to the district taxpayers is that we're asking them for $98.5 million. Again, just like the last bond program, we want to phase it in over probably about a 3-year period. Primarily, we're not going to use $100 million in 1 year, so it doesn't make sense to borrow that money and then pay interest on money that you're not using, so it's going to take some time to build your projects. And really the big reason is we also don't want to shock the taxpayers all at once, like I talked about earlier, because if we borrow $98.5 million, we're going to have to set that tax rate automatically that first year. And so the way this has currently been updated and designed is we were talking to the administration and trying to get a better sense as to how you would probably end up spending that money over a 3-year period. When you last saw me here in July, we really didn't know. We just kind of assumed like we're going to do equal increments of $34 million per year over the next 3 years. But in visiting with the administration, we felt that obviously the security items are going to come out first, and so we might not need as much money in the first year. So here under this illustration, we're assuming that we would borrow $20 million the first year. Second year, $45 million, and then the third year, $33.5 million. So after the 3-year period, you would end up borrowing the full $98.5 million. But I just want to point out that if the bonds are approved, it's up to the board at the time in the future on when and how to issue that bond. You're not holding yourself hostage in a sense to this particular bond program. You know, if things move up faster, move up slower, the board in the future has that discretion on when and how to issue those bonds, so you don't have to follow this plan exactly. But anyhow, so after the 3-year period, we estimate that the impact based off of your property values and projections will be 5.31 cents per $100 valuation. But again, it's not going to be all in 1 year. It's going to be incrementally over a 3-year period. The first year would probably be closer to 3 cents. Then we're looking at about a little over 1 penny each year in years 2 and 3. And so again, just like the 2011 bond program, this could all change. These are just estimates here. They're still pretty conservative estimates, so it could change as time goes on. And so each year, when you get your certified values, we'll recalculate everything again. As you start issuing bonds and borrowing the money, we'll see what actual interest rates we get, and so we'll recalculate again. So, but this is our conservative estimate that the impact for the $98.5 million bond will have on your taxpayers after a 3-year period is 5.31 cents per $100 valuation. Again, as we keep talking about the over 65 homestead, the folks that have that exemption won't be impacted by this new increase in your taxes for the bond program. So here, going back to the homeowners, if you go back to the appraised value of $200,000, we talked about the state mandated exemption of $40,000, and you get your local homestead exemption of another $40,000, which is 20%. We're going to actually pay taxes on a $120,000 taxable value home. The 5.31 cents, and I reran this like 3 times just to make sure it was right, but the tax rate is actually 5.31 cents, but the monthly amount that you would pay on a $200,000 home is $5.31 per month. And so but that, again, this is over a 3-year period. So how would it look in actuality? And just to compare apples to apples, each year, as you know, your home value is going to change. But here I'm just assuming it's $200,000 for 3 years, just to show you how the math could potentially work. If we had that same $200,000 home, the monthly impact, yes, it will be $5.31, but that's after the full 3 years after we issue all the debt. We're not going to set the tax rate that high in the first year. We're going to incrementally set it as we talked about before. So the first year, it'll be closer to 3 cents, that increase. So on an annual basis, that's about $36 for the first year, or on a monthly basis, that's about $3 per month in that first year. And then as we continue to issue the bonds, we're going to increase it. So the 5.31 cents that we talked about, that's again over a 3-year period. We're incrementally going to get to that. And hopefully, also nobody can promise this, hopefully it won't be that much, but again, that's just going to be something that we're going to look at and change each year as your certified values come on board. And so, again, after a 3-year period, a $200,000 home, that's monthly impact of $5.31 for the $98.5 million bond program.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
And so on the first phase, it's 20 million, right?
Yes.
Okay, so that doesn't cover our early childhood. So the second year, that's when we would sell the bonds for the early childhood. So the early childhood school would not be around here for 2 to 3 more years.
That's correct.
You start building it, or start your process your first year. You start working on plans and everything
I
else.
understand that, but I'm telling you the physical building
Right.
enrollment would be 2 to 3 years down the road.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
That's about as fast as you're going to get it done anyway. Doesn't matter if you had the money right away. It's
Still,
still.
if we borrow the whole amount to begin with,
Yeah.
we can't construct the school and get it ready.
Because we're busting at the
Unless you're bringing
seams.
portable buildings all in and locking them down.
If the legislature would enact universal pre-K in January to begin in August, we would have to buy portables.
And that would come out of the bond money?
No. I don't think, although the ballot language is broad, I don't think it would qualify for that. In May, we would have to get that's why we have bond attorneys. But Philip, I don't know if you've priced portables lately, but between 70, 90,000?
Yeah, it's pushing 6 figures. 2 classrooms, 2 bathrooms, electricity, water, to get it, and then get it set up. You're talking about $100,000 a building for 2 classrooms.
But what I would recommend the board entertain is if the citizens do vote in November, that we immediately bring on an architect.
No, I understand that part. I'm just talking about the physical building won't be ready until 2 to 3 years down the road.
Yes.
Sorry.
Oh, no, it's okay. Yeah, feel free to stop me anytime. So the next slide here, again, I apologize, for some reason the PowerPoint doesn't, but good thing I had arrows here. So basically, in 2016, our tax rate that we had to set at the district to cover our debt and also our operations was $1.41 per $100 valuation. That's what the tax rate was, the total tax rate for the district. Currently, it's at $1.16 per $100 valuation. As you can see here, I try to do a little Tulosa Midway colors with the yellow and red there, but that represents the future tax rates if the bond program is approved. I don't know what your maintenance and operation tax rate is going to be in future years because of compression and everything like that. So here I'm assuming that we're just going to keep it at $1.01 per $100 valuation. So that yellow line, that's going to be for your maintenance and operation. I'm assuming that's just going to stay steady. I don't know what it's going to be. It could be lower. And then the red, this is that 5 cents being added on incrementally over the next 3 years. So to try to put it in perspective, in 2016, our total tax rate was $1.41 per $100 valuation. If the bonds are approved and after a 3-year period we sell the bonds and it's going to be a 5-cent impact, the total tax rate for the district would be about $1.21 per $100 valuation. So still pretty significantly lower than what it was back in 2016. I'm not taking credit for that because it's the state really kind of mandating the school districts to reduce that gray and yellow tax rate, which is your maintenance and operation tax rate. But just wanted to put that in perspective. If the bonds are approved, you're still going to be considerably lower than what we were a few years ago.
Well, and it looks like to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, in 2011 we were paying higher rates and borrowing less money, and now we're going to borrow a lot more money and we have lower rates.
That's a good analysis.
Yes.
Yeah, and again,
Which is pretty amazing.
Yeah, that goes back to your biggest drivers to the debt rate is your property values. Back then, we were looking at $1.8 billion that we were working with, and now it's $3.9 billion. So,
Victor, is it fair to say, in comparison with our neighbors, we're lower than by far the vast majority of them?
yes, yeah. In the region, what we call Region 2, which is the Corpus Christi school districts, yeah, you're one of the lower tax rate school districts right now.
Good, that's good.
Any questions for Mr. Quiroga? This will probably be the last time he'll be presenting any financial information prior to the election.
It was good information.
Yeah, it is very good information to see that when the public sees it, this will help them understand it better. That actually the tax rate would actually, if it's been down in 2022, it's not going to increase that much, 5 cents.
You also lowered the tax rate
Yes.
by almost 2.5 pennies
Yes.
based on the M&O compression.
Right.
And the over 65 exemption, knowing that those people on fixed income don't have to worry about
Yeah,
any kind of rate increase.
their stays the same.
Yeah.
Yeah, regardless.
Yeah, we always tell our clients you want to be sure to let folks know that because they tend to be the highest voting demographic in any community,
Exactly.
and a lot of times they might not. I've heard some districts say that our taxpayers don't believe it, but it's true. You know, they do have that over 65 homestead exemption. They won't be impacted by the bond.
Yes. Very good, Victor. We appreciate it. That's interesting information. Indeed, of the more intricate figures.
Yes.
For the part of it, looking at that there. Anybody else have any other questions? We appreciate it very much.
Thank you, Victor.
Thank you, Victor.
The last slide was just the really detailed numbers if you're interested.
And I'm assuming we'll see you Thursday?
Yes, yeah, I'll be there in San Antonio, so look forward to
No,
seeing y'all
at
there.
the State of the District.
Oh, yeah, that too. Yeah, I'll be here.
They'd be here and
We
there.
have a lot going on.
Down here to go back home.
Yeah, for you
This
guys.
is a busy week for all of us.
Yeah, no, we'll be there at the lunch, and we're glad to support it again this year.
Thank you for your sponsorship.
Yes, thank you for having me, and best wishes on the bond election.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Victor.
Safe
Thank you.
travel.
Have a
Thank you
safe,
very much.
have a safe trip.
Thank you.
Okay. Discuss and consider approval of kitchen equipment upgrades.
Mr. President, members of the board, Mr. Hernandez is going to present to you a plan for spending some of the food service surplus money that it looks like we're not going to be able to spend for universal free lunch. Having said that, Mr. Hernandez?
Good evening. As you recall, we established a very healthy fund balance thanks to Hurricane Harvey placing us on CEP for the last 4 years. We've accumulated about $1.8 million in food service fund balance. We were hoping to be able to use that to offset the cost and provide free meals to all our students. It doesn't look like TA is going to allow us to do that because we're in a contract with a food service company. Had we gone self-op, there may have been ways for us to do it. By us we would be changing the contract, which would be illegal for us to do, and allow the other food service management companies that bid on the contract to an opportunity to sue us for violation of the contract. So it doesn't look, we've got one more gasp or hope that TA is looking at and see if they would grant us a waiver so we could possibly do it, but it doesn't look like we're going to be able to do it for this year.
So let me ask you a question, just to clarify. So the $650,000 that it would have cost us is coming out of our general fund?
Yes.
Is that correct?
That's correct. And based on what the food service company has run the numbers, and based, even though with our increased meal, it's looking more like it's going to be about $250,000 that we're going to have to pay out of
Not
pocket.
the $650
Not
that
the
we were
$650.
given?
It's going to be a much smaller amount.
Which I think, even if we knew that, to offer that transition year for our families with cost of living the way it is, I would have made a recommendation to do that.
Well, and we just pulled out a lot of money to take care of athletic facilities, so I
That's
think the
correct.
least we can do is feed some
Yes.
children this year.
Yes.
We obviously can't do it next year, but, and I know, Mr. Benavides, you were an advocate for providing this opportunity for our families. We just need, as a school district, to message that unless the federal government picks up what they traditionally picked up for the past 4 years, we're going to have to go back to charging for lunch.
So in that same argument, though, you know, guys, we continuously raise the rate, even though we're not, even if they're not paying for it every year. So by the time the parents pay for this, they're going to see quite a difference than what they were used to paying. At some point in time, we have to ask ourselves, I mean, we just have to unfortunately break the bad news to the district and say, you know, this is something we can't stop. We've been behind, I mean, the low tax rate, the low meal count, really the least amount.
The 20%
Right.
homestead exemption. The district,
I mean,
to a new employee, it's obvious that this board has done everything possible to lower the expenditures of living in TM and sending their children to school here, paying taxes. But you're exactly right. There will be a messaging campaign at the beginning of the year to educate our families that for the 23-24 school year, unless they're a CEP campus, I don't know if primary will stay a CEP, which means they all get free lunch. The other 4 campuses will have to pay, unless you qualify, obviously. Okay.
Previously, the board has approved Bill Wilson as our architect for the food service equipment. Bill Wilson's been working with us in our food service management company. He's been evaluating the equipment and has made a recommendation for the equipment that needs to be repaired. At this time, we're ready to go out for competitive sealed bids, but there's 2 things that the board has to approve before we go to the competitive sealed bids. The first is to adopt the contractor selection criteria for the competitive sealed bid proposals, and second is to adopt a wage rate scale for Nueces County. Because these are federal funds, we do have to abide by Bacon-Davis. So the first one is the selection criteria, and you can see it on your chart there. Of course, the actual proposed rate is the largest amount. The cost is 50% of the evaluation process. We also look at Revlon experience and capability, past performance on related work, quality assurance, warranty, proposed subcontractors, and reputation for scheduled punch list completion. And then we allow 3% for any other considerations. It's a pretty basic standard form grading criteria that's used throughout the industry. Okay? The second one is to adopt a wage rate for Nueces County. As I said before, we're required to abide by Bacon Davis. With the numbers that you see listed below are the most updated as of August the 5th, 2022. And it shows the minimum pay rate for all the trades there. Now, you'll see a bunch of trades. Of course, for these projects, typically we're going to be looking mainly at electricians, plumbers. There will be a little bit of roof work for the ventilation hood and sheet metal workers for that. But we're required to adopt the most recent local county wage rate for this project.
Let me ask you a question. Does the project entail being able to cook at ACC? Because right now they're the only campus.
We're working with Sodexo on that because the project that we've already outlined right now is not going to be anywhere near close to 1.8 that we need to spend. So we're going to have to go back and do a second evaluation of stuff that needs to be done for the district. And we've already started on that, and ACC is in the second phase.
Okay, good.
Do they have the room to put a kitchen?
Not a full kitchen,
It didn't seem very-
but at least a place where the food can be warm and hot, where they can get a hot meal.
Don't they have the portables?
They have the portables right now, but we want to give them, they have you're talking about the portable buildings,
Yeah,
or
the kitchen and the.
They have the portable kitchens, the rolling stuff, but we want to give them better equipment so that the food will stay
I'm talking about
hotter.
the portable buildings.
They do have those also, but they're
Space in
pretty
there.
much used to capacity.
Yeah.
Any of this equipment that's going to be replaced, do we have maintenance contracts on that equipment right now?
No.
So everything that we have is out of maintenance contract?
Out of warranty. When we purchase equipment, it basically most of it comes with a 1-year warranty. As far as doing a maintenance contract, we have not done that in the past. Where Bill is looking at, that will be one of the things as an alternate bid will be a maintenance contract for X amount of years. And we'll bring that to you. That's part of our selection, and we'll bring that to you for a vote.
Because we have to start taking care of our stuff.
Yes.
All this equipment would be a purchase?
Yes. We do not lease, with all this money, we won't lease. We actually purchase all our equipment. Everything in the kitchens we own.
I will say we get the full life out of our equipment. There might still be some stuff at the elementaries that came from the school from before.
But this fund does not allow you to lease equipment to where the maintenance comes automatically with it?
I would have to look, that might be a possibility, but in the past, we've
Because
just.
if you lease all this equipment,
They're responsible
they're
for it.
responsible for it. Yeah, so it all comes with warranties and, I mean, with maintenance programs built into them because it's in their best interest to keep it up to par.
I mean, we might not have this money next year to spend on it, though. So you wouldn't have any equipment next year if you leased it.
Well,
With that kind of money, you lease it for 10 years, you know? You don't have to lease it year by
We
year.
Definitely explore that option.
I'm not sure that if I can commit federal funds over extended periods of time.
You know?
You're not sure,
Probably
you,
because of
I think part
That's
of it
something
has
you
to
can
do with, we'd have to look into it, but,
I'm just
Thinking
saying
about
because
federal
like what
funds.
Kim says, you know, the maintenance program on it comes on a lease.
Well, could you do a maintenance program with the money that we receive on an annual base? For the equipment?
We can pay for the maintenance repairs out of this money.
Right,
As
well, that's what
long-
I'm saying.
Yes.
I mean, if you can just get something in works to where we don't get to the point where we're doing all of this again, you know, we can at least stay on top of it, you know. I think that would be sufficient for the board to know that we at least have some work in progress to keep the equipment up to date, yeah.
The equipment that we're replacing, so the walk-in cooler at the high school was original to the high school, so it's over 34 years old. The chairs in the high school commons area, I want to say it was just after I got here, so it's almost 14 years ago that we replaced the tables and chairs in the commons. The tables and chairs at the primary were here before I got here, so we're going on 15 years. So the stuff we're looking to replace is done its time.
Regardless of a maintenance agreement.
Yeah.
It's time to go.
correct, yes.
and we haven't had, maybe some of these walk-in coolers lately have been a little more expensive to maintain and repair, but it's 34 years old, it's time. But we, just like other things, if the repair costs justify, it's time to replace.
Yeah,
So,
ways.
I don't have a problem with
Maintenance.
replacing. I just want to make sure we're being good stewards of what we're getting.
Yes,
Big
sure.
Once you need it, you take care of it well.
Yes.
Okay,
We've done a good job. So that is that is part of the presentation.
And you said these wages are for Nueces County?
Yes.
Average wage.
Yes.
Government average wage.
Right.
Not.
No, I just said, you know, the first page said $15. I'm like, dang, who works at $15?
Minimum wage.
You want to move forward with the second part? There's only one motion here for your agenda item.
You should have been one motion to approve both the,
Yes.
to
Yes.
approve the wage rate and the selection criteria.
Yes.
Yes.
You done?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Unless there's any other questions.
Mr. President, members of the board, it's the administrative recommendation that the board adopt the presented wage rate scale for Nueces County, which is attached, and adopt the contractor selection criteria for competitive sealed proposals as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Van Matry. I'll make that motion. Who would like to do a second on that? Ben? Comments, questions? All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Patrick.
Very good.
Thank you, Patrick.
Thank you, Patrick. Okay, discuss and consider approval of purchase of TM High School gym electronic equipment.
Mr. President, members of the board, we have our athletic director as well as our high school principal here. There is a need for a new scoreboard at our main gym and scores table. This is a fund that has collected a fair amount of money through rental use of the facilities. So the funds that have been collected for renting out the gymnasium have gone into this account, and now the recommendation from our athletic department and our chief financial officer, Mr. Carroll, is to purchase the Sideline Interactive $49,999 from the buy board. Mr. Carroll, what do you have to add for that?
That's correct. It's actually two scoreboards. It's the main scoreboard, and then it's like the side
Smaller one.
It's the smaller one that's on the side.
Sides.
And then the scores table, I was not aware what an expensive piece of equipment the scores table is. It's beyond, it's been repaired. We've limped along with it. It can't be repaired. It can't be fixed anymore. And then there's the components on the main scoreboard that are not functioning anymore and can't be upgraded or repaired.
Let me ask, for clarification, Coach, one of the coaches asked me today if the scoreboard in the Gym A, which is our main gym, if that's going to be moved to Gym B because there's nothing there.
We believe that we can repurpose this. If you've ever been to the gym, which I know you all have, the center part is the scoreboard. The two side panels that have fouls and players, those are non-functioning, and the video screen is non-functioning. So the very centerpiece, we believe, can be moved to the smaller gym, so we'll be able to repurpose that, and because that one is worse than this one, if I'm not mistaken. The switch doesn't work and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, we should be able to repurpose it for the other one.
It will just have the scores. It won't have the extra.
Right. Which right now they have nothing.
Is that part of this bid, though?
No.
Okay, that'd be an extra.
No, that'd be an in-house maintenance.
Oh, okay, Patrick on the ladder, all right.
This is a great use of funds.
Oh, it's the best I've seen. Most rentals that I've been associated with go into the general fund. And so this is a really proactive, Mr. Carroll, way of utilizing funds that facility generated and then going back into that facility.
So the 49,000 is what's needed to complete the project?
No, that's the low bid.
That's the bid. Yes, that's what it'll cost.
Oh,
That's,
because down there it says 80,000.
That was 3 different bids.
Yeah.
That was 3 different.
Oh, okay. Oh, these are different companies. I'm sorry. I thought these were the things that were needed. I was like, wow, okay. Well.
And I can speak to the activity fund that's in that account. That, in my opinion, is how you fund and maintain all your athletic facilities. And I know we've had some discussions about it before, but when you rent something out, a percentage of that goes to an activity account for the facility and stays there until something like this happens. Then we don't have to, bond and do whatever we have to maintain our beautiful facilities.
For it.
It's probably the ads.
And then they
that-
keep coming to use our facilities.
The ads that we generate off the new
So,
scoreboard.
Coach, did y'all already sit down and go over the price differentials? I know you had a concern about that at the beginning of the season, that the rates might be a little bit lower. Have y'all already discussed? I mean, if you were able to do this with the low funding that we were charging, have y'all sat
Rental
down?
fees?
Right.
Yes, I did a study of 6A, 5A, 4A districts in the area about how much we charge to use our facilities, and we've measured it out to make it at least equivalent with them. So yes, sir, we have.
So that
We had been not charging. We haven't
has actually
not enough.
gone up, so this activity fund will be able to maintain the equipment the new equipment that we're about to come in on the stadium side. So could that be a fair?
Yes, when we're talking about the scoreboard, advertisement is something kind of new, but I would venture that the goal would be for those kind of advertisements to fund the district, the athletic department if possible. And Mr. Van Matron and I have had discussions, like I said, I'm not an ad guy. However, I can't imagine someone like Alan Samuels not wanting, something up there and maybe we get a local doctor's office to buy a new cart for the trainers that are across the district. But that's our plans, is to use our beautiful community and city to fund our schools. We have a lot of things to share with them.
So we have enough in this fund to cover this?
Yes, sir. Well, we even have a little bit left over.
this fund has $53,752.
So, now,
Mr. President, members of the board.
I want a good scoreboard.
Yes, ma'am.
okay, this is not a public meeting.
The Board of Trustees we recommend the Board of Trustees approve the purchase of high school gym electronic equipment from Sideline Interactive LLC for $49,999.
Thank you, Mr. Van Matron. Do we have a motion, Administrator?
I think we all. I think we all
Yeah,
approve
Ben,
of
John.
Go Kim and
Because
Ben.
that's a given because
Kim and Ben?
it's been, Kim has made the motion. John and Ben, everybody's about to on a second. But it's about time because some of that stuff was getting outdated and more hadn't been replaced well. Any other comments or questions?
Just one more. This doesn't include Philip or Patrick or even Coach, Mr. Van Matron. Does this include I know we were having trouble with the speaker system in the main gym.
Oh, you should get in there now.
Well, I went to another game and I went to that
I don't
volleyball
believe
game
this
that I
is a
saw.
sound system.
Yeah, it was loud, yeah.
It's loud.
Yeah, it's pretty loud in there now.
Pretty
but
loud in
is
there
that
now.
part of this, or was that already done prior to? Okay. So, I just wanted to make sure that you weren't losing out on any money there. All right.
Okay, any other comments or questions? All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Thank you very much. We move on, discuss and consider out-of-state field trip request for the TM Middle School National Treasures 8th grade DC trip, April 2023 intersession.
Well, we have our distinguished librarian at middle school, Mr. Gall. Will you give the presentation?
Sure. So my principal asked me to come, and we were under the impression there were all these people here today and all this stuff, so she said, make it quick. So just so you have an idea of the history of this, in 2013, there was a teacher that worked at the middle school named Lauren Vereen who had come from Houston, and she really thought it would be a great idea to take some kids to Washington, D.C. so they could see what they were learning in 8th grade American history firsthand. And she asked me if I wanted to go with her, and so I did. And we had a great trip. The kids were fantastic. So many of our kids have never been anywhere, and it became a tradition, and we went every year. Then the pandemic hit in 2020, And we were supposed to take the kids that year in April, and everything shut down in March. So those kids, their trip just kind of sat there, and I took them last September so that we could make good on that payment and everything. But I haven't been able to take kids for 2 years due to the pandemic. So that trip that we took in September was fantastic because DC was still pretty much shut down, and it was like we were the only people going anywhere. It was great. But the trip over the years has gotten incrementally more expensive. It goes up about $150 or something like that every year. This year it's $2,254 a person. It's a 4-day trip. It covers all the flights directly from Corpus Christi to Washington, D.C. and back. There's a charter bus that we have that is just our kids, no one else, that takes us everywhere. We have a private tour director that's with us 24 hours a day. We have a bus driver that's with us 24 hours a day. It pays part of the tips, it pays all of the entrances to all the different events and places that we go. It pays for all of their meals. It has a little insurance clause in there, and all of the safety and security and all of the things that we would need for the kids. It's through EF Tours, which is the same company that Laura Gray uses for her international trips. And so we call this kind of like the practice run. Any kid can go as long as they have a good disciplinary background. So I asked the kids, I used to invite kids, and then I felt like that kind of left people out. So now I just ask people if they're interested in going to apply, and then they turn in their applications. We go and we look at their discipline record. We check with their teachers and ask them, what are they like in the classroom, that kind of thing. And then we come down to who can go and who cannot. It's very rare that I don't take someone, unless they're just an absolute jerk, to be really honest. Because, I have to make sure everybody can be on their best behavior. I don't want to take kids who are like a problem or anything. And we've never had trouble. Usually if something's going to happen, when you come back, that's when all the pictures would come out or whatever, and we've never had anything happen so far. So usually when the kids go, they're a little terrified because they've never been anywhere without their parents, and so you tell them you need to be here, they're doing it. We have an 8-to-1 ratio of kids to chaperones. I use a system with them where I have 2 lead students, and the group is split in half. So I have 4 kids. I have 2 lead kids. That kid turns around, I'm like, do you have your 3? Do you have your 3? All right, let's go. And that's how the chaperones do it. So we don't leave anybody behind. Let's see what else I'm going to tell you. It's during the April intercession if we do go.
What age group are these kids right now?
8th grade.
8th grade. So these are the 8th graders for right now that will take this trip then? Okay.
And hopefully, I would come back to you later to see if we could get the 7th grade trip started so the parents would have a longer amount of time to pay and payments are less.
A lot of people so that more kids can go.
Yes, exactly. But with the pandemic and everything, that's the only reason why. Let's see, we would be going to the White House, the Washington Monument, all of the different monuments, World War I and II, Martin Luther King, Thomas Jefferson, Lincoln, Korean War, Vietnam Wall, FDR, all of the different monuments, the Smithsonian's. Like when I was growing up, I didn't know there was more than one, but there's a lot of them. They're all down the mall. We basically stay in that mall area. The White House, the Museum of African American History, which is an incredible museum. It starts in the basement. You get on an elevator and you go to the basement, and the bottom 3 floors of the building are what it was like to be in slavery. I mean, when you come to the floor where the light is, it's when civil rights happens. And then the top 3 floors are all of the things that African Americans have been able to accomplish in civil rights. It's an incredible building, just even talking about it. It's just such a great enrichment opportunity for our kids. School does not pay for it, the parents do. They're completely able to raise money on their own if they'd like to, if they want to pay for it themselves. I don't send the kids out to go door to door or do any of that kind of stuff because I don't think that's safe. But kids can surely babysit if they want to, or work with their parents to try and raise money. But that's that in a nutshell. Do you have any questions for me?
You need a nurse.
I need a nurse.
Is there any, you're taking chaperones,
Oh,
right?
yes, ma'am.
Okay, but are they parents or?
So a long time ago, I would tell the parents, I'm not in the TM tour business for parents. I take people who work for the school district simply because they work for the school district.
So do they get paid for doing this, or?
No, I don't get paid for it either.
So how do they get their flight and their accommodations?
So the tour company, for every 12, I think it is, chaperones that you take, they give you one free spot.
And I didn't mean do they
kids.
get paid for it? I mean, do we pay for them for you? No.
No, it is completely at zero cost to you. Yeah. So for every 12,
I think it's a 10.
10, okay,
Well, it said
10
10.
students. It is 10, they changed it. Then you get one spot. So, like in the past, and I've tried to share the wealth. I've taken people who are secretaries or paras or something like that, because it's something that they probably would not be able to experience otherwise. Sometimes I take teachers. I might take the principal this year because she's never been. It just depends on who's available.
Angela, I think you're amazing for taking your time in your intercession to offer our kids this opportunity.
Mr. Gar, I'm sorry, I thought you were done, you do post. I just have one quick question. One of the things on the high school tour, they usually get 2 years for the fundraising. I noticed all of this is happening this year. What is the feedback from the 35 kids? This payment goes straight to EF Tours.
Right.
Because I sent 2 of my daughters.
Right.
Are they finding that, is this going to be because one of the clauses in their insurance, especially with the reimbursement money, is that it has to be an X number of kids. So 35, I think you're right almost at that limit. I think you have to take at least 30.
You have to have 35 for it to be private, yes.
Right, to be private.
If I have to take a parent to get to that 35, I have the ability to do that, like they can pay for their own trip. I think maybe twice in all of the years I've had parents that went because their children had medical issues that they didn't really want to burden me with. I had one student who just completed
that's going to lead you to where I was going to go with this. Because you're at that point, obviously they work for the district, they've had a background check. If a parent goes, we're going to do background checks and everything else for them as well, right? And on that same note, just, I think it's a word of caution, just because it's very hard to get your money back from EF Tours. Please let the parents know that we are at the limit level, so that if something happens, they know to buy the insurance to get their money back.
I always tell them up front.
Right,
you know,
okay.
like, and with the pandemic, that was really the thing that I told people. I said, look, I mean, if anything now, that's definitely on the table, and you really should pay for that insurance, because if you have it, then you're able to do it. We had one student who couldn't go because he got COVID right at the beginning. So his little sister, if we do take the trip, she'll be taking his money and going on the trip in his place. Poor kid. Lucky sister. Let's see, what else was I going to tell you about that? The way, I really wish that we could fundraise and do things like that for the kids, but it's just, people don't show up. I've worked for TM since 1994, and it used to be if you had something like that, everybody that was doing it, everybody came, and everybody would go do the work. And now people will be like, well, I'm busy, or I have this, or whatever. And you'll have 5 people that'll show up, but then everybody wants part of that money. And so that's when we quit doing fundraisers, really, unfortunately.
I also noticed you didn't put free time like in the high school, and so obviously they're supervised at all times, right?
Yes, sir. In fact, the one thing that, my husband is a teacher at Flower Bluff High School, and he takes kids to Europe also. And we both have done student council for numerous years. I mean, we've traveled with kids for over 20 years. And you never, ever give anyone free time. Never. So you run them till they're dead at the end of the day.
I know my daughters came back almost disliking all their classmates until the school started.
Yeah.
And then the next year. But
Yeah, I mean,
they had
it's
seen
been-
each other enough, but anyway.
But
Well, this is very good. Thank you very
thank
much for doing this.
So what we do is after dinner, they tell you, well, there's nothing else, and you're like, no, and they know me, and so I go in and tell them, no, those meals are not appropriate because they're paying all this money. You're not taking them to Bojangles for a hamburger. No, we're gonna eat something that they can't have at home. If we're gonna be here at night, then we're gonna go see the monuments, because those are open all night long, you know. So we're out there till 9:30, 10 o'clock, and then we come back, and everybody is exhausted. And then we're up at 7 and ready to go the next day, so.
They look at me, they look at me twice.
Any other comments or questions? That was very well covered. It's a great opportunity for the students.
Thank you for doing that for as long as you
And
have. I know you have done this for a long time, so
Yes,
thank you for
good.
doing that.
Mr. Van Metry.
Mr. President, it is the administration's recommendation that the board approves the Tolosa Midway Middle School National Treasures 8th grade DC trip scheduled for April 2023 intersession.
Thank you, Mr. Van Metry. Do we have a motion of Minister Jan? Motion, Jeannie seconds. Any other comments or questions? Thank you for your time and the way you take care of the kiddos. All those, any other comments, questions? All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Thank you very much. Next is discuss and consider approval of non-contract, non-Chapter 21 contracts.
Mr. President, members of the board, after much discussion during the qualifications of the retention incentive, we determined unanimously that we have some employees that perform such a specific skill to the district in their areas that they need to be offered a non-Chapter 21 contract. So having said that, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Elizondo.
Yes, of course, policy DCE says that any new positions that we add to non-Chapter 21 will be approved by the board. So we are adding the positions of Assistant Maintenance Director, and that works with Patrick, the Network Administrator, the Technology Systems Manager, and that's David and Orlando, and the Performing Arts Center Coordinator, and that's Curtis Ashby. So that's what we're bringing forth tonight for your approval. And then...
Technology and Systems Manager, that's 2 people?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, because they're just manager.
Managers.
And they are critical. I mean, they're just critical, both of them are critical to the school district. To them.
Yes.
And without the assistant maintenance director, then we would be in a hot spot. We really would. We really would. So that's what we have before you. Any questions?
I think it's a good idea. They're doing the job anyway.
They are. And I've spoken to each one of them, and I've expressed how valuable they are and how valuable their positions are to the school district and how much the school district appreciates them, and that we felt that their positions were worthy of a contract, and they were very, very appreciative. Of course,
What kind of contract are they under right now?
They don't have a contract.
So that will-
At will.
Employees.
At will employ.
Very, very appreciative.
Okay. Questions, comments? Okay. Mr. Van Metry.
Mr. President, the administration recommends that the Board of Trustees approve the positions listed above as those who are eligible to DCE receive a non-Chapter 21 contract.
I will make that motion. Do we have a second? Kim seconds. Any other comments or questions?
I have a question. So if they're at will, this brings them into a contract for this year or?
Yes, sir.
This is.
Yes, sir.
For a whole year or just from here to the end of a school year?
Remaining of this.
Remaining of this
This year
year.
till the
Because we had
next
that issue where we
contract.
hired somebody in the middle.
Yeah, it's a year by year.
Yeah.
Okay, now, since now they're gonna be a contract employees, are they entitled to come back and get their retention? Or did they get it anyway?
They've already received.
They received it as an at-will?
They received it as under the conditions that this would be approved tonight.
Oh, they already got it.
They've already received it, yes.
Any other comments or questions? All those in favor? Those opposed, motion carries 7-0. Thank you very much. Approval of the SHAC resolution.
Mr. President, members of the board, we've done some reorganization with the SHAC, and we're moving forward tonight. Anticipation of the board approving a resolution, so then the SHAC can move forward with the meetings that required to select a human sexuality curriculum that's been approved by the state of Texas. That's an interesting new requirement for schools, because the SHAC is your committee, and they will operate under the same guidelines that you do concerning open meetings and agendas posted, and that's new this year. One of their first duties, as Dr. White's going to present to you, is the resolution, which then the SHAC committee will entertain entities that have this curriculum. There'll be 2 public hearings, and then they'll make a recommendation to you. What makes this human sexuality so unique is it's an opt-in only. In other words, if parents do not opt in, then they do not receive the correct curriculum. Normally, there would be an opt-out. The parent has to be identified and say, no, this is an opt-in. So having said that, I'm going to turn it to Dr. White.
So just to add on to what Mr. Van Mantry said, our next step in terms of reconvening the SHAC for the school year we're currently in is for the resolution to be approved, which is why we are bringing it forward tonight. And upon approval, we will be looking at scheduling the calendar meetings for the school year, and then more to come at the next school board meeting regarding those meetings. But as we've said, the resolution first. And that's why we have brought that resolution for you all tonight for your approval.
And will the curriculum that you all choose as the SHAC committee be brought to the board?
Yes, ma'am. If we make it to the point where we're ready to provide that recommendation, that is exactly what the resolution allows us to do.
Because we definitely need to know what's going into the classrooms.
Where will the curriculum come from? Where is that adopted from?
It will come from the committee's recommendation. We will review some older curriculum that we've looked at, but there's some new curriculum that's coming for the school year, which is why, again, we're bringing that resolution. So when the curriculum comes, we're ready to review, and we're not going to miss a beat, so to speak, when the state's ready to share with us what they've been working on for the past year or 2.
Head Start.
We discussed that in the SHAC last year with the curriculum. We had a couple of, remember, Patrick, with presentations, but the state at that time put a hold on going forward with that. Is that correct?
Right. Well, in terms of our ability to move forward with the approval of the curriculum, we need this resolution first, which is why we're doing this tonight. So a lot of what we did last year was in the exploratory stages of just trying to understand the process with everything being so new, and also with TA not exactly having all of the curriculum ready for a review. This year, we are being told that there will be the curriculum ready to review. Okay. So as soon as all that happens, we will bring those recommendations at that time.
It seemed like last year it was opt-in and opt-out, so now it's just opt-in.
Yes, ma'am.
I thought there were 2 options.
There will be no children exposed to the curriculum unless their parents opt in.
So when does the state say you have to have something in place?
That hasn't been determined. Right now, it's just been highly encouraged that we go through the process because board policy dictates that we will. And so that's part of our requirement, is to go through that process. And if the process, based on the SHAC committee's recommendation, if they would like to move forward and bring that recommendation, then we have to honor that recommendation.
So this could be something we spend our time doing, and then the state says, don't worry about it.
That is a possibility, just like that's a possibility with many of the things that.
If they don't have a date that it's supposed to be in place, then.
That's what happened last year.
Then why are we putting the effort forward?
Because, like I said, the first part before tonight was the board policy approval, and part of that approval of that board policy says that we will go through the SHAC committee and review those curriculums, and that will also be included in the yearly SHAC annual report, which is another board requirement.
What?
So Dr. White, this SHAC committee only has to report to the board only one time a year?
Four.
Four.
They're gonna have four meetings. They have 4 meetings. They can report to the board for the annual report and anything that they deem that the board needs the information on.
Well, I'm not gonna say I have a perfect attendance record.
We haven't had an
But
annual report.
I don't think I've had a report for a while.
We haven't had an annual report from the last SHAC committee that I was on this past school year.
Did you meet 4 times
Yes,
last year?
Two in the fall, 2 in the spring.
Yeah, we've never seen them here.
Yeah, I was gonna say, so
Never.
is this, I mean, I understand you need this resolution, great. But saying that the board's approving it says that the board's staying on top of this so that this program can be in existence to the district. Well, is this committee, since we have so many different committees now, when is the committee gonna face or present to the board what we're offering through this program to the students?
If I'm understanding the question correctly, the resolution is what allows us to bring forward the actual recommendation. In the prior school year, we were meeting and reviewing, but no action could be taken because the resolution was not approved by the school board. Tonight, your approval of that resolution allows us to move forward with an actual recommendation if the SHAC committee would like to do so. It is completely their call to do that.
So the resolution did not come to us last year?
Correct. So we were just in the exploratory stages, and if we wanted to take action and provide that recommendation, we wouldn't be able to until the resolution was approved.
But there was not a resolution last year. We had 4 SHAC committee.
Right.
Board policy says there should be an annual report to the board, not even based on this curriculum, based on
Right, just-
anything else that was discussed.
That will be coming before the end of the calendar year, the annual report.
So this,
Last year?
Is that the question you're asking?
No,
Is it coming from
we
la-
didn't
you
get
were
one
gonna get it
last
from
year.
last year, at the end of this year?
well, it says we're going to have it in May 2023. That's when we're going to have
I'm
our next
asking what
report.
happened to the,
That's when the report simply schedules at the end of the school year, you have that report at the end of the year.
no, my concern is, I'm asking for last year's report, what we
Right, well,
discussed
we
in
didn't bring
the.
the resolution, so based
But
on
it's
those
in board
meetings,
policy.
we didn't do it, so.
It's in board
It wasn't
policy to give an annual report.
What'll happen in moving forward, we've reorganized the SHAC, and we'll make sure that happens. The first time
To
that,
hear what we worked on last year, we were busy.
from what I understand, there's 45 people on the committee.
There were quite a few.
I'm used to like
I
10.
There was more than 10.
I see 2 people in the audience that were on it.
So this SHAC program, it's funded by the state or it's funded by the district?
In terms of funding
Like, I
the
mean, this
committee itself, or
It's a
just,
volunteer.
it's
a volunteer?
it's just like with any participation committee, it's on your time.
Yeah,
What age group are we looking at having an opt-in for this curriculum?
It touches elementary.
It's elementary, middle, but like I said, it's based on the SHAC's recommendation. We'll look at all grade levels that are approved and kind of go from there based on what they have to
I
say.
just know that I'm going to want a whole lot of information on
and we're
anything
reviewing.
going at every level, and especially our
But if
elementary.
the state's not requiring it, why are we doing it?
It is required by the state, isn't it?
is.
We went to legislation last year that
There's
told us it was
legislation.
required.
There's legislation that we provide an opt-in.
They put it on hold for the curriculum base. They
Yeah,
didn't.
they still don't
The
have a,
curriculum that I'm familiar with that previous district approved was through Community Action Corporation of South Texas.
there's not an implementation date.
They came and did a very thorough presentation. There was another entity, but I can't remember what their names were. I'll be perfectly frank with you, in sitting through both of their presentations, I was uncomfortable.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, that
And
makes
that's for
me feel
elementary
better.
kids.
I was uncomfortable.
Can you say why, sir? What was in the
I
presentation that?
felt that at the young age, the majority, if not all, of that should be a family decision and something that the home needs to provide. I understand at the high school level, we have issues that teen pregnancy and that we need to address. Janie, I'm just uncomfortable when we get down to an elementary child for the school to try to circumvent things that the family should be doing. And I'm not going to allow that to happen.
Yeah, because
That's what this program's for, is for the elementary kids.
And middle.
The middle, yeah.
But what the good thing about it, Stephen, is it'll be presented to you, and you can certainly have the autonomy to reject it. We
But we
just
don't have to implement it.
No,
Right.
we just have to
Correct.
provide the mechanisms.
Yeah, give them the
Okay.
resolution so that they can go by this little chart up here,
Right.
adopt the resolution, then they have their meetings, and once they discuss it, come up with something that they can present to the board.
Yes, it's really
Then
designed.
It's up to us to say, okay, or no.
You're
at
exactly
that
right.
point.
It's really designed to be more of a parent-friendly versus the school just doing it unilaterally, and then the parents find out later on. This provides the vehicle where the parents that, there's a large percentage of your SHAC committee that are parents that work outside of the school district. They have the authority to determine how this is going to move forward versus historically, the school made those decisions and you may not even know.
Well, I think the
Right.
opt-in is great.
Yes.
Because that's an option, because that's where in some of the things you read in the news and everything, that it was the district that implemented it.
Correct.
And they created the curriculum in different places, and it has caused a public outcry and storm. Giving them, we still have the option, once the parents have looked at it and determined it, had their meetings, then they come to us. And if we don't like it, we don't have to vote for it, right? Or it can be modified,
At
if
the
I'm
same
correct.
time,
You can send us back to
If
review.
it's an
and change.
opt-in, I mean, you
Yeah.
give
Parent
the
makes the
parent,
final
the
decision.
parent makes that
Yeah,
final
but I
decision.
know, I'm saying when they bring it back to the
I
board,
understand what you're saying.
no, when they bring it back to the board,
So it's a
we
parent's
have.
choice.
Yeah,
Okay.
but
It's an
it's the
opt-in.
parent's choice
That's
to
correct.
They want
opt
that
in.
It also
No, you have to
creates
understand also that, I'm sorry, that, you have, like Jan said, you have a lot of people on these committees. It's not like, we're gonna bring something to the board that's off the wall crazy, it's a lot of parents in here. And, why have these committees if the board already has a mentality, well, we're just gonna shut it down? You have the opt-in, so you have the
I think the board
choice.
has that mentality, but.
No, the board does not have that mentality. If they come up with a good plan, no. It's just that we have that option, I said, we have that option, not that we would.
Well, this gives the parent a lot of leeway, and that's what we need
That's
to
what it
do.
was designed to do.
Exactly.
That's
We need
what,
to give the
the way
parents
that
the leeway.
it's talking about is the way it gives it's implemented. But our responsibility tonight is to adopt the resolution so that they can start
They
on
can
the
move forward,
process.
yes.
And have their meetings, have the parents and everything develop this that they can come back to the board with.
And then I will direct Dr. White to research the minutes from the 21-22 school year and give an annual report for that.
Good. Any other discussion or anything else, Dr. White?
So on this resolution, it says that we will have a report at the May 2023 meeting.
By the end of the school year, we will have the annual report, which will include this
For this
resolution
school year.
and any curriculum.
By May 2023.
We'll
have it by that date.
For the 22-23, he's going to do one for the 21-22
Correct.
prior to that.
I think Stephen's saying that, in other words, we'll get a report at the end of May. So if we only had one meeting, the third Monday in May, we'll have a report for this curriculum.
Or earlier, that's the latest by.
Right, the latest by.
Basically, the message was that within this calendar year, there will be a report to reflect a year's worth of work.
Right.
And that's if the state gives us the okay to get going.
They already have.
They already have?
That's what this is for.
Well, I understand that, but, so then we'll have the 4 meetings before that, all this kind of stuff. Everything will be scheduled in.
You can have
Yes.
more than 4, but that's the minimum.
This isn't the only thing that's gonna be covered in those meetings.
Oh, no, we have a
The other
list of things to get
options,
under. This is just one of many.
Wellness, everything. There's all kinds of things.
It's interesting. I implore the community to get involved with it. I liked it.
It was interesting.
Okay.
Mr. President, members of the board, the administration recommends that the board approve the resolution to convene the district SHAC committee to recommend curriculum materials for human sexuality instruction as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Van Matry. Do we have a motion on the administrative recommendation? Then do we have a second? John, second. Okay, do you want me to read the resolution? Okay. Resolution for Tolosa Midway ISD. I want to read it before we vote, right? We will vote right after the end. So everybody, I hope everyone read it before. Okay. It says, for Tolosa Midway ISD to convene this district school health advisory council, SHAC, to recommend some curriculum materials for human sexuality instruction, whereas the section 28.004E-1 sub 1 of the Texas Education Code requires the Board of Trustees to adopt a resolution convening the local school health advisory council, SHAC, for the purpose of making recommendations regarding curriculum materials for the school district's human sexuality instruction. Now therefore be resolved that the Board of Trustees of Tolosa Midway Independent School District hereby calls for the convening of the District SHAC 2. 1, hold at least 2 public meetings on the curriculum materials before adopting recommendations to present to the board. Recommend curriculum materials that comply with the instructional content requirements in law are suitable for the subject and grade level for which the materials are intended and are reviewed by academic experts in the subject and grade level for which the materials are intended. Present the SHAC recommendation to the board at a public meeting by May 2023. Now, we've had a motion and a second. Are there comments or questions?
So on number 1, it says at least 2 meetings. I thought we were having 4 meetings.
It's at least.
SHAC is required to have 4 public meetings a year. If we are wanting to bring a recommendation based on the human sexuality curriculum, we have to have at least 2 meetings to review the curriculum. So we could be using 2 of our 4 meetings to satisfy this resolution requirement. But that doesn't mean we only have to have those. We could have as many meetings as we want.
Yeah, but if you have a resolution that says you only have to have 2, then you might only have 2.
And it's
Right.
not just, Stephen, 2 meetings, it's 2 public hearings.
Right.
Okay.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, all those in favor? Those opposed? Motion carries 6-1. Thank you all. And this was adopted the 19th day of September 2022 by the Board of Trustees. Thank you very much. Okay, we want to discuss and consider approval of adjunct faculty agreement for the San Patricio and Nueces County.
Mr. President, members of the board, as you know, this is traditionally an annual action item, primarily for student attendance accounting and funding purposes. The first item we bring to you would designate 6 individuals for adjunct faculty status. Logan Bear, Lynn Branshaw, Kevin Gibbs, Jaime Lopez, Norma Munoz, and Tina Munoz for Nueces County, and 3 for San Patricio County, Cameron Yautz, Kathy Farrell, and Bobby McCool.
That's your recommendation?
The recommendation is that the administration's recommendation that the board approve the adjunct faculty agreement for San Patricio and Nueces County as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Van Matry. Motion on administrative recommendation. Jan, you have a second. Jamie, comments, questions?
This is the agricultural, right? The 4-H?
Yes, sir.
That's for the adjunct, the 4-H.
The next one is resolution
Just
for
the
extracurricular status.
Any comments or questions? All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion carries 6-1. Thank you very much. Discuss and consider resolution for extracurricular status of 4-H organization.
Mr. President, members of the board, we have 2 resolutions one for Nueces County and one for San Patricio County, to designate extracurricular status of these two 4-H organizations.
Question. Since this already passed, we have to go through this portion of it as well, or is it?
It's two parts. The first part is to identify who the instructors are, and the second part is to designate board approval that it's an extracurricular status for attendance and accounting.
So these 6 students, do they get additional time off or off campus?
These are
faculty.
These are faculty.
And this is going to say a group of kids can leave the campus basically unsupervised from our...
The 4-H and the FFA are, as you know, national organizations where parents are very much involved in showing these.
Well, I understand that. I mean, but, you know, that ag building, you know, being paid with taxpayers' money, I've always wondered why we did this. So every year I'm always against this program. I just want to make sure we have to do both parts. You said, yes, we will go ahead and go through this.
And I have a question on that also. On the difference between the 4-H and the FFA is that the 4-H, the kids are not representing our local school.
They start in 3rd grade.
They're not representing.
That's correct.
The local school.
There's a chapter.
There's a chapter, so they're representing
their chapter.
Their chapter.
That's correct.
Yes, Tulosa Midway is not affiliated with any 4-H.
4-H club.
We have FFA.
But FFA doesn't start till what grade?
Ninth.
9th grade. So kids third through 9th grade would not be allowed to
They have
do
to be in
anything.
a chapter.
Right,
They
but
can't be an
that
FFA.
would also change our calendar, because then not everybody would be off during the showtime, because we would only have a high school group.
You don't change the
We-
calendar
you
for
know.
athletics, and our kids leave early for athletic events. It's the same thing with 4-H and
That's not the
FFA.
same thing. Our athletics is representing TM.
And our ag teachers are at everything that our students are at for
Our ag
4-H and
teachers.
FFA.
FFA is representing our school district.
And 4-H is not, right?
That's right.
And these programs
Not officially.
make kids very successful.
But we know when we go to look at the shows and how they
Well,
show.
an independent
Yeah, we know they're
knowledge brings
TM kids.
success, not 4-H.
So
It's
the
what you're
3rd through the
driving.
9th grade kids, you want to deny them
I'm-
any
I'm
kind
not
of,
denying them anything. I'm saying that you can work towards a goal, Stephen.
that they could wait till they get in high school to be in FFA.
Yeah, if they want to show, I mean, the thing is, you're accommodating how many kids?
It's not
What
just
is
about the livestock show.
What is the number of kids in 4-H compared
I have no
to
idea.
FFA? See, that's what I'm saying. This is never measured. But like I said, you've already, you know, the data don't lie. This is just for a small group of people.
I have no idea what the numbers are. I do know that we have a beautiful FFA facility that.
That the taxpayer paid for, yeah.
That would show me that the community supports both of these programs.
These 4-H students do not use our facility.
I know.
You don't use the facility.
No, I understand that. That's what I'm saying.
But many of
But we did open up, we tried to open up FFA for the middle school, and I don't think it made. a couple
I
of
actually
years
do
back.
think I actually do think that it did make it middle school.
That was a big
I
hit.
think those kids attend their junior FFA
Okay,
kids
well, if
now.
it did, then.
6th grade then.
That's
Then we
six
lost
all the way down to
teachers.
You can
six.
start participating at 9 years old, and it's not just about raising an animal. They have tons of programs for these kids to participate in. It is
Leadership.
not just about animals.
Leadership, horticulture.
Well, it's just like, you know, I mean, you can say that about everything. My kid did select football when he was little because he couldn't play until he was 6th grade or 7th grade at the middle school. But we didn't come ask the school, hey, can we take, you know, time off because he wants to play select football. You know, we did that on our time, weekends or whatever.
You have a lot of schools around this area that have 6th grade baseball. You know, we don't have any middle school programs for 6th graders.
So we're saying we no.
No, I'm just
I'm
asking,
saying no to
we're saying
kids.
no to
I didn't
kids?
say no to my kid.
You're saying no to
I'm
kids?
Yeah, but you're
I'm
saying
just-
specifically to this
I'm
group,
just saying that
no.
this is coming to the board for us to approve for something additional to what we've already built through taxpayers' money.
But they cannot
FFA.
This
participate.
passes every year. I don't know why we have this conversation
John,
every year.
If they're,
It just pass the vote, and I'm gonna vote no, and then you guys vote yes, and it passes. That's the way it works out, guys, every year.
okay.
But why can't we look to
Right,
get
that's
this FFA back to the 6th grade? Why can't we hire a teacher? We hire a teacher for everything else. Why can't we get somebody to represent us and start it at 6th grade, just like the football program does and everything else? Why can't we do that? Is there?
I think we do.
We may. I'll certainly look into it.
Yeah, and then there's no beef about it
This
because.
conversation's very unusual for me.
Yeah.
So I will look into that.
Okay,
Very unusual.
okay.
It happens every year, don't worry about it. It's not just you.
No, but what I'm saying
Support all
is,
children in what they want to
there's a
do.
lot of, they can't play football in the 4th grade. You have to go outside to do that, Kim.
I understand that.
Well, I mean, I didn't
Same
come to, same thing.
All I'm
Certain
saying-
people show animals, certain people want to play
All
football,
I'm saying is
baseball.
I'm not against
You have
the
to go
program.
outside to do it.
Exactly. I'm not against the program. I just don't think that it should be excused. You can do whatever you want on your own time. There could be an extracurricular. And if you really want it bad enough, sir, you'd go do it. Just like select baseball, football, everything else.
Point taken.
That's the point I've been trying to make for the last 12 years.
I'm gonna call the question, please.
Yes, call the question. All right, we've had a motion, right?
Why did I did that one? So let's vote on it.
Okay. Have we had a motion on this?
I also move. Also move.
You'll move the motion, okay? And someone would second
I'll
that?
second.
Okay. Any further discussion on this? All those in favor? Those opposed? Thank you very much. Motion carries 5-2.
Otherwise, we have teachers without the
Now,
class.
we discuss and consider second reading of TASB Policy Update 119 for locals.
Dr. White?
Members of the board, we're back here 1 month later to have the second reading for TASB 119 update. There are 7 local policies up for your review and approval. As of right now, the recommendation is to approve as such. No changes are being brought forward.
Okay. That's a recommendation on this?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. President, it's the administration's recommendation that the board approve TASB Policy Update 119 Local as presented.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Betmachi. I'll make that motion. Do we have a second, please? Janie seconds. Comments or questions? Thank you very much. All those in favor? Those opposed, motion carries 7-0. Thank you very much. TM Education Foundation State of the District. It's a report.
Mr. President, members of the board, we have a sold-out function, expecting over 340 people. The Education Foundation has made over $37,000. The luncheon is from 11:30 to 1. What time do we need them there?
We would ask all board members to be there no later than 11 o'clock.
Okay. I will be speaking, giving a state of the district, recognizing what we've done, what we're currently doing, and what we want to do, what our vision is in the future. I have 14 minutes to get that in.
You've done a lot for you to do it in 14 minutes.
And then we will eat. And then we have 2 representatives, Senator Hinojosa and Representative Hunter, that will have a panel discussion. They will be presented questions, and they'll have an opportunity to talk about anything from school safety to what the legislative process will be, points of emphasis in January, and then we'll be out of there at 1 o'clock.
Hopefully.
Yeah, well, we've been given strict orders that if you don't, people start walking out because they have to get back to work. But I understand the last luncheon was a couple of years ago.
Yes.
I want to give kudos to Ms. Castillo. As you know, the Education Foundation doesn't have an executive director, so she's been operating that, as well as my assistant, and as well as working for you. She's done a terrific job. Her and Terry Hamlin, who is a huge asset to this district as well, works in the print shop, have done amazing work that I'm anxious to showcase on Thursday.
Good.
Any questions on?
Be anxious to hear. Yes. Okay.
I had this one. Chris, I want to give you all the money I've made on this board for all your hard work. Okay.
You're going to donate?
I'm going to donate my whole annual salary to you. Okay.
CH. All right.
Somebody else want to donate theirs?
Number 11, report, TM Superintendent 90-day report card.
Okay, let me get up for this one so that I can operate the, we don't have a clicker, do we?
We had it, it's not working, but I'll be the clicker.
She'll be.
You tell me.
What do I?
Here.
Okay, I'll just take care of it.
All right.
As you know, I believe it was my second interview with you. I gave you a 90-day plan that we would move forward. Now, from June 6th to today, I think it's been over 100 days. I'm not going to say it seems like 100 years, but it does seem like it's been longer than 90 days or 100 days. So I'm going to give you a brief review of some of the things collaboratively that we've been able to work on and through. So if you look at some of the big ticket items, we had a significant salary increase that averaged over 8%. More important, we were able, for the first time, through the help of the CFO and his staff and HR, to come up with a salary compensation structure. Prior to that, we didn't have that. And then, through federal funds, we were able on September 1st, and many of you were involved in that, give retention and incentive payments ranging from $3,000 to $5,000. That was, Mr. Carroll, correct me, 1.8 million, 1.9?
Correct.
Close to that.
Whatever you say. Whatever you say. No, he's right.
This is a biggie, and we'll get to see our new scoreboard homecoming. You allocated $5.5 million from fund balance to have new scoreboard, new turf, new track, new lights, fencing, stand improvements so that our spectators that are in a wheelchair will be able to go to Warrior Stadium and enjoy watching our soccer players or our football team or our track athletes. This was a major accomplishment for the community. Putting the $98.5 million November bond in the hands of the citizens and giving them an opportunity to decide for our early childhood center, which would do two huge things for us. It would greatly reduce the primary capacity from 125%, which it is right now, to a little over 80%. And it would also give us an opportunity to educate more 4-year-olds than just those who qualify. We have a significant amount of maintenance work that needs to be done. You know, from last week, we had the incident with the chiller at the high school where close to a day, our second floor was not cooled. We have, you know, people accuse me of being totally focused on sports. I do enjoy sports, but if truth was known, I enjoy the band on Friday night equally, if not more. And TM has a band that we can be proud of, as well as, I'm sure, an orchestra, jazz band, mariachi. Right now, we are limited with our instruments. This would alleviate that. Moving as quickly as we did on the bond says a lot about you. I remember one of your questions, Ms. Boone, during, I don't know if it was the first or second interview, I think it was the second, is, you know, just how soon can we move forward with that? And we moved fairly quickly. Our students have free lunch. We've enhanced campus security. We raised the hourly rate of CCPD, or Nueces County Sheriff, or Constable, from $35 an hour to $50. We're working on our district culture. That's a heavy lift, but I'm pleased with 90 days into it. Remember, if you were at our convocation, I want the man on the moon. Janie, you remember that? And that culture is, regardless of how much you're paid or what your job responsibilities are, we have equal shared responsibilities with student performance and student safeties. We have communities and schools at our middle school. We have parent facilitators at our primary, intermediate, and middle. We've had one community meeting that was well attended, and we're going to have more of those. Our high school has received $1.4 million for welding in our medical assistant programs. We're one of 3 school districts in the state that Dell Foundation to support early literacy is funding at our primary and intermediate campuses. We've started a new partnership with Junior Achievement to where our seniors are going to be trained in business literacy, and then those seniors are going to go down to our elementary campuses, which they're viewed on as heroes by our elementary crowd, and they're going to provide some basic business financial literacy through Junior Achievement. We have a new partnership with Texas A&M University Corpus Christi for physics. One of the initiatives that doesn't get a lot of attention but will put money in our students' pocket is our SAT, ACT twice a week free tutoring program at the high school campus. Next year we will operate Early College P-TECH Career and Technology Initiative, where we will be, as early as January, sending kids to A&M Kingsville to assimilate with other college kids on the college campus. It's a biggie. We have a new curriculum and instruction department headed by Dr. White. Our campus facilitators and our curriculum director and assistant curriculum director are working collaboratively to support all of our campuses. We're just beginning a curriculum audit. We have used what we call TEAC's resource system for several years. That may or may not be in our best interest to continue that, but there's other curriculums that we think may be a better fit, particularly with the new STAR 2.0 coming on board in the spring. And then we have a district-wide OARS instructional coaching model, which is designed primarily, if not exclusively, to help us better coach our teachers in the classroom. I've been busy on the campuses. This is my favorite thing to do, is to visit our campus. I don't think there's been one day since school started that I haven't been on a campus. That's my happy place. That's where I want to be. I did lunch duty today at intermediate, and I think the kids enjoy. They've given me a new name, and that's the principal of all the schools. So I don't know if that has any additional funds, but that's how they can visualize what my
You're
job
doing.
job is, so I'll take it and run. The feedback that I get from our teachers is priceless. They tell me, and they're fairly consistent, that they need 4 things. They need more planning time. They need better technology for their classroom. They need Chromebooks 1-to-1, and they need respect. And that's district-wide. And so I take that, and we've been able to do a couple of things based on what they're telling us. They have a 45-45 requirement where they need some interventionists. So working with Mr. Carroll, we're allocating some of our ESSER funds to add 2 interventionists that'll start at the intermediate campus and provide that prescriptive instructional support for those kids. And then we have 75 computers over in the technology building in boxes, and we have an allocation of about $130,000 through special education, where we're going to earmark all of that money to go towards classrooms where special needs kids are in. And there's other kids in those classrooms as well as special needs kids, so they can benefit. And then we're going to pull those 75 computers and put them in classrooms. So that's a need coming from this. We don't just have fun, which we do. We try to solve some issues. And I really believe it's our time. I really do. One of the things that I was telling, I don't know who it was, but they were asking me about you as a board. And what I was able to tell them is that in the short time I've been here, I don't think there's been an issue, an action item that dealt with kids or teachers that you've said no. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's quite a lot accomplished in a short period of time. Very good. Very good report. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, moving on to the consent agenda.
It is the administration's recommendation that the board approve the consent agenda items as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Van Matry. Do you have a motion on administrative recommendation, please? JD, we have a second. Jan, seconds. Comments, questions?
You know,
Okay.
I've given Philip a time off for way too long. Philip, on page 117 or page 7 on the registry. There is a time clock on there that was $21,000. Is that, I guess what type of time clock is it?
Page 17.
It's
Seven.
It's
seven on the, there, we will get to 17.
Time clock plus.
That's a business.
Yeah, I mean, could you, what, I mean, if it is a business, what did they do for, and you could go straight down.
That's the system that we use, the district-wide system for time clocks for all our
Employees?
Non-exempt employees.
Oh, okay. And that's like a new system we put in, or is that
No,
just,
we've had time
is
clock
that
plus
just?
for about 4 years.
Okay, I
This is
guess
the
I've missed it all this time.
Yeah.
The other one is this Bank of Texas, I can't pronounce that first word, it's AME, it's at the bottom.
Is that on the same
Yeah,
page?
same page, 407.
Amergy?
Yeah.
That's
407.
That's a maintenance tax note payment.
Oh, okay.
We have our bonded debt that the voters approved, and then we have maintenance tax notes that get paid out of the bond payment. Those bond payments get paid out of the general fund because they're not voter approved. They're board approved and they're authorized by the board. They come out of the general
Those
fund.
don't impact the tax rate.
Oh, yeah, that was gonna be my next
Yeah,
question. Okay.
we use that expenditure from our M&O, just like we pay teachers. So when that is retired, that will be additional $400,000 that we can put back in our budget, whether it's through salary increases or whatever it may be. But a maintenance tax note that only needs board approval doesn't impact the tax rate.
Right. This is the 2000, we initially did the last maintenance tax note, I think it was in 2015, and then we refinanced it, we refunded it, refinanced it at a lower rate in 2021. So this is, we make semi-annual payments every February and every August.
Isn't there one that's going to be retired next year?
You have the one from, it was originally Schneider, it was for our
the electricity
one. We're making the last payment this November out of this year's budget. That one is one, that's a different one. That was a financing through capital financing, and we only make an annual payment once a year in November on that one. But the other ones are semi-annual, February and August.
And then you did touch on page 17. We have Los Gallegos for like $6,000. Is that just our monthly fees to him?
What page is that?
It depends upon as with attorneys, it just depends upon how much we utilize them. It's not a flat thing, it's how much we utilize them. It varies from month to month, depending upon.
It's a lot more than 6,000. Closer to 11, 12,000.
Yeah, I was just looking at that. I was wondering if that was for services that we use them for.
It's got the dates on there. It's broken down between different accounts, account codes, depending on if it's personnel related or if it's board or superintendent related. But you can see the dates there. Those are billing from the middle of June to the middle of July, is what those are the bills.
Right, and then you had 50,000 on page 27 for this consulting group, KIVU. And then that's a ransomware. Is that the new system the new software we put in for the?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, I thought that was self-explanatory, but I just wanted to make sure.
That was free for a while, correct?
Yes.
That's the okay. That's the one that we started.
When we filed our claim from our ransomware attack, we were getting that for free. We get it, and that's also an estimate. We're hoping that it goes down because we're getting it through the service center, and more schools that utilize it, the price. We're counting on it going down a little bit because as more schools participate, the price goes down.
And they will, because more schools are are vulnerable.
Yes.
And then the only question I had beyond that is we had on the new lawyer, Cruz, but I forgot what page it was on. Just in a question on that. So if we have two systems running, are they not going to retention for every month that they come up on our registry, or is it only when we use it?
Only what we use.
Only what we use. So anything that comes out here.
Now there is some agreements that were made with Walsh. Anna Christie, help me with this, that were paid on an annual, that we will still use them, but those are retainer only, correct?
Yes. I think it was $1,000 for any personnel issues that don't require any research. Like if I ask them a question through an email or a phone call, they don't charge.
And since that's already been paid, they will, if there's a question to be answered, they'll use
a simple question. I try not to.
Yeah. No, I would just, this is it because the both lawyers popped up, and I thought, okay, well, maybe.
A lot of money going to leave.
Yeah, I was thinking, is it something that we just have to do every month, or? But, and since I'd given you so much time off, dude, I figured I can hit you with 5 today. I'm just surprised my buddy at that other corner hasn't jumped in. That's all I had. I just thank you very much for the explanation.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any other comments, questions? All those in favor? Those opposed, motion carries 7-0. All right.
Mr. President, can we take a recess?
I suggest that we do so. With the pleasure of the board, take a, 10-minute? Is that enough? 10-minute recess? Okay, it is 8:27 p.m., September the 19th, 2022. We're in 10-minute recess.
I saw your purchase.
Oh, you did? They're going to turn off.
It is 8:30. 9:39 p.m. We're back from recess, and we're going to go into closed session. Vote will convene in closed meeting as authorized by Texas Open Meeting Act to discuss items allowed by the Texas Government Code, Chapter 551.071, .076, .082, .0821, .083, and .084. Discuss employment of certified personnel. Discuss employment of non-Chapter 21 contract personnel. Discuss duties, responsibilities, reassignments, employment, terminations, resignations of district employees. Discuss superintendent goals. Discuss and consider and take possible action regarding employment of certified personnel. Discuss, consider, and take possible action regarding employment of non-Chapter 21 contract personnel. Discuss and consider and take possible action regarding superintendent goals. It is 8:41 p.m., September the 19th, 2022, and we are in closed session. It is 9:26 p.m., September the 19th, 2022. We're back in open session. Mr. Van Matry, please.
Mr. President, members of the board, I recommend that you assign employment contracts to the personnel non-Chapter 21 contracts as presented.
Do we have a motion on administrative recommendation? Ben and Jan? Okay. Any comments, questions? All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Thank you very much.
Mr. President, members of the board, I recommend you accept the resignation of Ms. Melissa Jimenez.
Motion on administrative recommendation, please.
Did you mention the educator contract?
Yes.
Second?
Oh, contracts.
Okay. Comments, questions? All those in favor? Motion carries 7-0. Mr. Van Matry?
That's all I have.
Oh, how about, you got the, the one teacher?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, we have the one
Oh, my
teacher.
goodness.
Yes,
One teacher.
that's what I just mentioned to you.
It is recommended that the Board of Trustees issue an educator contract to the individual as presented.
Okay, it's Danielle, is that how you pronounce it?
Danielle?
Yeah,
Danielle Timer.
Timer. Okay, motion on administrative recommendation, Jan, and you would like to second? Jamie? Comments, questions? All those in favor? Those opposed, motion carries 7-0. Mr. Van Matry, is there any further business?
I think that's it.
Okay, there's no further business. I entertain a motion to adjourn. Ben, second. John, all those in favor? Motion carries 7-0. It is 9:28 p.m., September 19th, 2022, and we are adjourned.